Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel, East to West Reviews. Thank you for joining me today for something really special. We're going to get into a discussion for Bad Batch series overall, at least what we've covered so far. We're about midway through, 10 episodes in. Got my boy here, call me Duty Dan, aka Spence. Thanks for joining me here today, man.
You know, hey, Flutter.
So we've been wanting to do this for a little bit here. So much to talk about, of course, with regard to this series. You all know I'm having a fun time with it. For those who've been watching, keeping up with it, uh, I'm having such an absolute joy with this show. It's so much fun. Um, but I want to ask you, Dirty, um, what are your thoughts on the show?
Um, this show is great. Honestly, it's one of the better projects that I've seen in a while for Star Wars. I personally think that this was a much needed series, especially because we're seeing certain characters that we've seen in other like timelines in the Star Wars universe. Like how they are during a certain period, or like either the end of their story or the start of their story, kind of like you know showing telling us like how they're doing, and I appreciate that about the show a lot.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, I know, there's so many things to get into it, so I had to definitely break it down for this episode here. Um, so
Oh yeah.
there's been a lot of quotable, relatable, somewhat emotional moments. What's one or two of your favorite moments to happen so far?
I think definitely one of my favorite moments is seeing a young Caleb Doom
Okay.
as Kanan Jarrus. Like, I've watched Rebels. I love Rebels, and if you haven't really watched it, I would definitely recommend getting into it.
Yeah.
But Caleb Doom, or will be known as Kanan Jarrus. He's probably one of my favorite Jedi. Like, most people, like, when they see him, they're like, oh, like, he's not a Jedi, this and that. But it's like, the way he is, he kind of shows like what a Jedi should be in its own like kind of unique way. But seeing a younger version of him and knowing his story, especially seeing the critical moment that like changed his life forever, like, I thought that was amazing that they did that, especially within like the first episode. I would definitely say another one of my favorite moments is definitely seeing Cad Bane. That is
Yes,
one of my
yes.
it was such a great moment because I wasn't expecting it. Like, there's a bounty hunter coming in, whatever. It's like you see the robot and you see Cad. It's just like, whoa, like he's still walking. Like, he's still alive. He's still doing him.
Like, this guy's alive right now. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree 100%. Cad Bane showing up, definitely my favorite moment. I would say for this whole entire series, um, just because he's so raw, dude. Of
Oh
course,
yeah. Oh yeah.
all those moments in Clone Wars, breaking into the Jedi Temple, the
The man in it
younglings, and
is so.
everything.
Yeah.
The man has been able to do what many can't do. He's capable. He can take out Jedi. He clearly can infiltrate the temple. Of course, he had some really like great help, but yeah, he's so capable. He's so raw. Cat Bane is definitely one of my favorite moments to show up. Um,
Yeah.
I'd say another one for me um, is Rex showing up.
Oh yes.
You know,
Yes.
I'm a Rex stan. If people don't know, I'm a Rex stan. That's my boy. I love him through and through. He's
Love
got the
Rex.
most drip. That 501st blue with the shoulder pauldron. He's too raw with the dual pistols. You can't touch him. You can't touch him
Yeah.
at all. So that was definitely one of my favorite things. Um, that's definitely a top clone for sure.
I think
Um,
one good thing, especially after watching season 7, knowing him and Ahsoka are just kind of, they left the ship and everything, seeing like where they kind of went, knowing that Rex is still like trying to fight for something.
yeah, yeah. He's still trying to do something right for his brothers. Still fighting for what he thinks is
Yep.
right. So let's get into this next question here. So we got your favorite moments. Now, of course, this is about the Bad Batch. Now, out of the crew, who is your favorite member of the group? Crosshair included,
You
because
know?
of course he's a member. And then
Okay,
also after
yeah, because
that,
I was researching
who
right now.
who is? What are your thoughts on Omega and her addition to the crew?
Okay, so I would definitely say my favorite Bad Batch character right now is definitely a mix. It's a mix between really just Echo and Crosshair, honestly. Crosshair because he got I love his new outfit. Like even though it's like damn like we want Crosshair back, his Imperial like outfit it just looks so nice. And on top of that, like he just doesn't miss.
It does.
He's just such
It
a
looks like a
cool
nice.
like dude. Like
It looks like a nice
it's almost like the
high
early
tech
stages of like the
version.
Death Troopers.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
And it looks like a sleeker, improved version of the old Bad Batch armor. I always love their aesthetic, of course. You
yeah,
know, the black with the red stripes. But his just looks so much more like cunning and sinister. You know, like you said, the Death Trooper look.
yeah. Um, but my personal thoughts on Omega, I think Omega's very interesting, especially after discovering like she's related to like pretty much like completely related to Boba. Like even yeah,
Yeah.
all the clones are
Oh,
clones,
we're
but like
don't get to we're gonna get into that in a little
sister,
bit.
you know.
Don't get too much into that bad. We're gonna get into that in a little bit. Um, but yeah, go ahead, go
Yeah.
ahead.
But no, I just thought that was that's probably one of the most mind blowing things. But overall, Omega's really good. I think she adds a bit more to the group and kind of allows the clones to kind of show off more of their personalities and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Um, let's see. My favorite member of the group. Um, Crosshair just because he's raw, of course. But honestly, I my favorite isn't even an original member. My favorite might be Echo.
Oh yeah.
My favorite might be Echo. He was one of the ARC troopers in Clone Wars, so we got a lot from him. We know he's a man who's about his team, who's about his boys. He's especially because for the longest time we thought he was dead before, but comes back, joins Bad Batch. And he's really made like a home there. He's really made himself like invaluable, like so valuable to them. They need him for their operations now. He's a valuable like asset. So I was really happy to see he's come along like in his own way from all of
Mm-hmm.
his issues and everything that he's been
Yeah.
through. Um, so to see him like interacting like so regularly with these guys, like we used to see him back with like Fives and having those guys, it's nice. It's really nice to see for me. So Echo's definitely my favorite. Also because he's bad about it. He's one arm short, but he's never lacking. He is never lacking.
Mm-hmm.
And Omega, as far as Omega, I like Omega. She's a nice interaction. She's like a breath of fresh air. These guys are some of the toughest clones to ever be made. And when it comes to this little girl, they'll drop anything for her. So it's kind of nice to see. She really gets like a lot more out of them, I would say, in terms of character and everything. So she's a really great introduction to this crew, and I love her dynamic, especially with Hunter and Wrecker. I've been going with the whole Hunter's the dad and uncle's like really. I mean, Wrecker is really her uncle.
Oh yeah. I agree with that. Yeah.
All right. So throughout this series, we've had several moments where we've seen um, Order 66 happen, whether it was someone's turning on for the first time, or it was the actual Order 66 moment as we all know it, um, with a massive scale clone transition, as well as the slaughtering of the Jedi. So how first of all, my first question on that is, how do you feel about them, starting off this series with the Order 66?
You know, actually, I was really happy they did because it's like, yeah, we saw them in season 7 of Clone Wars, but like we kind of already got the introduction. So I'm glad that they are like, if you watch this show, you kind of have to watch Clone Wars. But they kind of went straight into it. They decided, there's no introductions. We're going straight into, the most critical point of the war, and we're gonna show
Yep.
you like their point of view. So I'm really glad that they kind of started us off with that.
Same, same. And it's like you said on how we ended Clone Wars with that. It
Mm.
was really cool to see it in Clone Wars from a different perspective of Ahsoka and some of the clones, on their Jedi cruisers, of course, in mid space, because we know that was we've seen similar situations with in Jedi Fallen Order, of course,
Yup.
with Cal Kestis and his master.
Mm-hmm.
So and to see it, Caleb in the first episode, like you said, seeing his backstory. I know I
Oh,
haven't seen Rebels myself. Don't crucify me for that, people. But I plan to watch it. Um, but I know about his story, his distrust of the clones. I've seen some clips, especially the moments when Rex and everyone comes back around into the series. So I know his moments and his distrust and fear of the clones. So it was actually really nice for all the fans there to get that callback, I thought, of starting off the series at Order 66, him losing his master, him running from the Bad Batch, and them having an intertwining moment with him that's going to have a lasting impact on him until he dies.
mm-hmm.
So I thought that was a great way to cement them into the overall Star Wars story. Connects them to a lot more people and makes them a little more important in the overall theme of things. And also because they outright, despite Crosshair, they outright defied Order 66 when it first happened. They if they weren't outnumbered or facing off against clones, I really think that they might have taken out all of those groups of clones that were going after the Jedi Master. Honestly,
Mm.
that's my thoughts on them. I think they might
Yeah.
have done something about it.
I was gonna say, like, as a Rebels fan, and like, like I said before, like knowing his story and like you said, his distrust with the clones, because in the episode, Ezra asked him, was like, "What's your problem? Like, why do you not trust Rex?" And he's like, "I've watched these guys like gun down my master like right in front of me," and then like seeing it actually happen in the show, like it made my jaw drop. Like I was just like, "Wow, they are actually showing us exactly what he says in Rebels," and that's another reason why I just loved it.
And nobody ever thought that the same people that would it be there to witness it with him were Squad 99.
Yeah.
So Order 66 has happened multiple times, like I said. We saw it officially happen to Crosshair on Camino, but that's for special reasons. We know his inhibitor chip wasn't fully functioning, so it wasn't as shocking. But there was another moment with Wrecker, as we know, when his inhibitor chip
Oh
happened.
my god.
So, so what were your thoughts about they were kind of leading up to it a few episodes. To, every now and then he would mention something about a headache, and we know
Yeah.
in the first episode, Crosshair started off with just a headache, and then he turned. So, what were your thoughts about that writing? About how that was kind of happening throughout the series, his headaches, and then the final turn when they were in the droid factory.
Mm-hmm.
What were your
What do you think
thoughts
about
on
it? Yeah.
leading up to that with the headaches and the overall him turning, on the Bad Batch and Omega?
So, first of all, that man is scary. When he turned, I was like, "Oh my god!" I said they got to do something right now, like right now. But the leading up to it, I think it was done well, especially because in some of the fight scenes, you would see he hits his head or someone hits his head. So it's just like, oh my gosh, like when's it gonna happen at this point? It's like, it was just suspense.
Yeah, it was just
And
a
then
countdown, honestly.
yeah, and then when it finally got to that moment, like we all probably thought like, oh, okay, so he's not actually gonna turn, but no, no,
Yeah,
he
because
did.
he took a few heavy blows.
Yeah, he
So
did.
I didn't think that would be the time. I thought maybe he was like maybe a little later. Um, I thought maybe they would have it happen when they went off against the Empire again. And then I kind of thought that'd be cool if that would be introducing him to joining the Empire and fighting alongside Crosshair. Imagine if we lost both of them.
Yeah, that would. Well, first of all, that would be a huge problem for the Bad Batch because Wrecker is he's very strong.
Yeah, he. Oh my God, he laid it out on all of them. I
Yeah, he did.
to think that he took out the entire squad single handedly. He is a problem. I completely agree with everyone who was ready to put him down. Honestly, that was a thing in the episode a few times actually.
Yeah,
Hunter was ready to
especially
put him down.
yeah.
Even Omega was ready to put him down. When she picked up the blaster, I thought that she was actually going to do it for a second, but then I realized, hold on now, this is Disney. This is Disney.
Yeah, not only is this Disney, but like just their connection. She just couldn't really come to it for a moment.
Yeah, but even more so, like the connection, like you said, she cared about him so much. I think she was willing to not let him turn and do something really worse, like he could have done, because we know he's capable of it. She knew it
Yeah.
too. And honestly, if Rex didn't get the jump on him at the end, I think Rex was
Oh my
definitely
gosh, yeah.
Rex
Because I was
Rex
gonna
was
say
definitely
like
ready to
even
take him
Rex
out.
got done it.
Yeah, because Rex was ready to take out the whole squad back in Sid's bar.
Yeah, he said it. He's like, you got your chips in? Like, excuse me?
So that was funny, and honestly, I think Rex could have held his own there a little bit. A lot of people think Hunter could have taken him out, but if it's one on
I
one,
mean,
Hux and Rex and Hunter, I got all my money on Rex, all of it.
I would love to say I got my money on Rex, but I don't know. Hunter's pretty cold.
Hunter's
He
pretty
does what he's
cold.
got to do.
Hunter's pretty cold, but I don't know, man. Rex, they've all been around. They've all been
Yeah.
around. So that's definitely like an extreme fight. But I'd like to see that one day, actually.
Mm.
Um, so actually, so speaking on Omega, there's been a lot of talk ever since the first episode about what makes her so special,
Yeah.
right? So we find out recently that what does make her special, um, she is a Fett. She is a female clone of Jango Fett, a Generation 1 clone, perfect, the same as Boba Fett.
Yep.
So she is not going to age the same as other clones. She's going to age slowly, normal life, and she seems to have a number of similar characteristics. But here's my question to you: do you think that the whole thing that makes her special is the Fett DNA, or do you think there's more to it? Because a lot of people are still subscribed to the idea that she's force sensitive. What are your thoughts on that?
So, first of all, I personally don't think she's force sensitive because, you have to look at it this way. It's like like most people, and this is not talking down on anybody, like most people will think like if somebody has something slightly special about them that stands out, like everybody wants to jump to the idea someone's force sensitive. I personally think it's just the Fett DNA because you look at Boba, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you look at him how he is in Clone Wars, you look at how he is in, original trilogy, even the comic books.
Yeah.
You look at Boba and you just see how, like, how great and unique he is as a bounty hunter.
He's
You know,
capable.
he's not.
He's his father. You know, he's his father's son.
Exactly. And then also I was gonna say, like, I like how they, pinpointed that he's known as Alpha,
Yes,
because it's like, okay, like
you got the
his name
alpha
wasn't
and
always
omega.
Boba, you got Alpha and Omega. Kind of reminds me of Red versus Blue, but um but just kind of like having that whole Alpha and Omega thing is just like, whoa, like Boba's got a sister.
hmm
But
So do you? So you okay? So you established she does not. You don't think she has force powers.
no.
So I don't think she does either. I feel like if that was the case, there would have been a little more alluding to that. She's very intuitive, so I can see early on, the ideas that she may have be force sensitive, especially because, like I said, she's very intuitive. She can perceive situations well, and she seems to have like a lot of like abilities that like she can just pick up on the spot. Like when they first went to Sid's bar and they were looking for Sid, nobody you know knew who Sid was, but Omega's like, "You're Sid." So I
Yeah.
feel like that's probably one of those moments where people thought, "Oh, she's force sensitive," but I don't know. I think she's just really like intuitive. She has a sharp eye. She's intelligent. We know that on Camino, she was studying medical, I don't know, technology information on Camino under Nalase. She is very smart. Um,
Yes.
but there's been a few other moments throughout the series where, um, she's displayed like incredible skill. One of my favorite moments was in the first episode, when they are trying to escape Camino. Crosshair's got them cornered in the hangar. Wrecker's down. They're trying to get on the ship. She that
Mhm.
moment where she picks up the rifle and she hits Crosshair's rifle perfectly,
Yeah,
perfectly.
I agree. Yeah, that is a very crazy part.
And she had never touched one, or probably even I've probably seen one, but she's never
Yeah,
touched or
because
used
the
one
thing is,
before.
they did say she's like never blasted a rifle before.
hmm
So that was like her first time actually like shooting, and the fact that she was that accurate.
So that's one of those things to me where I think that the her DNA kind of pulled through for her. Maybe being a perfect clone of Jango Fett kind of gives her some innate skill or some latent abilities that she's
Yeah.
kind of has to learn to tap into. What do you think it is? Do you think these are things that she's going to develop and learn about, or do you think it's just something random?
Wait, repeat that question again.
If it's not forced like ability that makes her special, do you think that with the Fet DNA, it's like something that's like unlocking inside of her that she's going to like get more of as the time goes on, or
Yeah,
you
I would
think?
say so because also like I mean, I don't know how cloning exactly works in the Star Wars universe, but most of
Right.
the time when they clone something, they still have the same mind as, the original version of that clone.
Mm-hmm.
So she could just be kind of picking up his skills and kind of like, because she's a younger clone that's, still aging and stuff like that. She's going to be like slowly picking them up, like as she ages, or maybe as she gets experience with something, or maybe, it just clicks.
Yeah. Do you think this is similar to like Boba Fett? Because he was a kid in Clone Wars, the show, um, and but he was still capable himself.
Yeah.
Do you think this is something that for both of them that works?
Yeah, honestly. Especially like, you see Boba Fett a couple of times, and then next thing you know, you see the whole arc with him, doing a bunch of bounties and missions, and like you're seeing how good he's doing. It's just like, wow, like, his father's son.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's capable. But no, I agree with you. I think it's definitely something in the DNA. I think as the show's going to go on, she's going to develop more and more skill, and she's just going to become like a regular like clone.
Yeah.
But we're going to come back to that because I kind
Okay,
of
I
want to
was gonna
set.
mention one more thing.
No, okay, go ahead, go ahead.
Because I was gonna say like, also how like in the Grand Republic, like a lot of the commanders and captains and like high ranking clones were trained by Django himself.
Yes, yes,
You know,
I love that aspect.
like I think, and you also have the guidance of the Bad Batch. You know, like you have Hunter giving her pointers and Wrecker like teaching her, and like Tech making sure like she understands certain things. You know, so I think that also adds on to her abilities, like pretty much being developed.
True. No, that's definitely true. She's learning a lot from all of them. I think even and I like how you brought up, from the other members, because just in this last episode we got she mentioned that Tech won't let her even fly the ship or do anything with it until she can memorize all of like the flight controls.
Yeah.
So that's definitely like she's learning from them like regularly. I'm sure she's probably even getting combat tips and everything else from them since she's out there. We know
Yeah.
that she's got that bow, and that was another moment actually when she was able to utilize the bow very well. She was practicing not so well. Sid showed her how to use it well one time. I don't know if she practiced more after that, but she saw Sid how to use it one time, and she was a pro.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was I think that's definitely another one of those moments. She's gonna be really good.
Oh yeah.
And I kind of want to get back into this in a little bit, but I want to move on to a little bit more of something related, especially since we're talking about Boba. I want to get into this whole bounty hunter situation we've got going on in the series. So we mentioned, favorite moments, Cad Bane, right? But we've also got Fennec Shand out there as well. What are your thoughts so far on Cad Bane being introduced in the series, finally getting a young Fennec Shand? Of course, we saw her in The Mandalorian. She was a favorite in there. But yeah, what are your thoughts on them and their overall like plot and importance in this series?
Um. Actually, that's a good. I personally like how they brought Fennec in. Personally,
Okay.
um, especially like because her first appearance, like a lot of people were like, "Oh, the person that sent her is obviously Imperial because you're in the Mandalorian." She's like, "Oh yeah, like I used to do jobs for the Imperials. They would hire me for stuff."
Yeah.
Um, but what I also like is like later kind of finding out that like she won't just because like in a way like she kind of wanted to protect Omega, especially when she was having her thing with Cad Bane, you know, because obviously her contact must have told her like, oh, this is why I need you to do this. They're gonna try to extract her and then kill her for after taking her DNA, and I guess that's why Fennec was like so eager to kind of take Omega, especially when she was separated, and you had Cad Bane on the loose trying to blast them, but.
Yeah, definitely. I really like the introduction of Fennec Shand. Um, I didn't. Well, we knew she was going to be in this from the start, right? I wasn't too sure in what capacity until they were on the run. Um, but I've really been enjoying her in this. Getting to see her, like you said, young. We knew she had ties with the Empire. So that's what made me think early on. Some of my predictions were she was working for the Empire. I thought maybe they were going after Omega because they knew that they weren't supposed to, obviously, but we know that's not the case. Um, but yeah, Cad Bane, seeing him come back, seeing him on their ship right before his duel with Hunter,
Oh yeah.
that's a top one moment of the series for me so far.
Oh yeah.
That
Oh
was
yeah. I
yeah.
agree. I agree. That duel was pretty intense because I'm like, you got Cad Bane, but you also got Hunter. Like
I knew Hunter had no chance right away. I knew right away he
I
had no
had
chance.
hope, but I was in my head. I was like, yeah, no, Cad Bane's gonna like dust them, but like I had hope that like, all right, because it's their show and it's not Cad Bane's show,
Hmm.
Hunter's gonna win.
I do like that they didn't make it that he ended up getting away with it. But Hunter's nice, but Cad's so much better. Cad's so
I
much
mean,
better.
also to mention that Cad, right, was the one that taught Django, right?
I don't know about that. I mean, we know he taught Boba.
Oh yeah, no, that was Boba. Sorry, but he also knew Django
Yeah, no, they
and
definitely
highly respected him.
because they were probably in like that older guard of bounty hunters. I think Django was top dog before Cad probably was.
Yeah.
But I definitely loved both of them coming in. Um, I I really thought Fennec was working for the Empire. I didn't think it would be. Um, I didn't think Cat Bane would be working for. I thought Cat Bane was also working for the Empire. Sorry, um, and I was surprised to find out that they were working for the Kaminoans, both of them, of course, on
Yeah.
two opposing sides.
Yeah.
Um, but what are your thoughts on the Kaminoans and their kind of whole background plot for this whole thing? Because we know that they're interested in Omega. They're using these bounty hunters to sort of find a way to get her back. They know who she is. They know what she is. Um, and we know Nala Se wants her to just be safe, right? Um,
Mm.
but the prime minister,
He does
he's
not care.
like, yeah, he
He
does
does not
not.
care.
Yeah, he's like, bag her up, bring her back, get the DNA, and she's
Mm.
done. We're gonna kill her. So, what are your thoughts on the Kiminoans so far in the series? What do you think is going to become of them in this whole situation with Omega, and some of the bounty hunters?
Well, I personally think they want Omega because, well, we all know if we played Battlefront 2, the classic one, there's the
Yeah,
uprising.
yeah.
So I think they're trying to get her DNA so that they can breed clones
Talk
good
to
enough
him.
to kind of go against the Empire. And I think that's why the Prime Minister kind of wants her, because clearly the Kaminoans, they don't like what the Empire is kind of doing and taking control of everything, or at
Mm-hmm.
least um, not the Prime Minister, but the other Kaminoan. I forgot her name. Um,
Now let's say.
yeah. Um, but I think it's kind of crazy, especially realizing like that she's a Gen 1 and she's basically literally a female like clone of Django. I'm like, why else would they want her? But it also raises the question: is why didn't they go after Boba? Like they can also have people go after Boba Fett
They could, but
because
but
clearly
like
his name's out there, and on top of that, it's like bounty hunters know, at least by this time they kind of know about him.
but that's the thing. He's also kind of protected by the bounty hunters.
That's also true.
So like we know, so the question for that, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Like why don't they go after Boba? I part of me wants to say because one, they have no idea where he is. He's I feel like he's constantly moving around the galaxy. He's still very young. He's still learning. We know that from the Clone Wars, some of those bounty hunters that he was hanging around with, they felt like real caretakers of him instead of just like a crew, you know. Um,
Yeah.
I think he's rolling around with like Bosk too.
Yeah. And we've
So,
also like boys.
yeah, so who's going to try to step to him? And then also here's one other thing. Depending on if this has happened, that might be another reason why they have not gone after Boba Fett. Has he had his duel and fallout with Cad Bane?
No, because if that were the case, we wouldn't have seen Cad in the first place because that's how Cad Bane dies.
Do we know that if that's how he dies?
From what I've been
Because
seeing on
I don't
like
think that's
Star
ever
Wars
been
Twitter and
confirmed.
Reddit, a lot of people are saying that's like kind of where he dies because it was a deleted scene, and that's also how Boba gets the dent in his head.
I
A
know
helmet.
that. Yeah, I know that part. So I mean, hey, I believe it if that's how he died, but I never knew if that was confirmed or not. But but
I mean, I don't know if it is confirmed, but again,
yeah,
it's a deleted scene.
yeah, yeah. Um, but just to go back on that, it's so that's probably why I think they might not go after him because
Mm.
if he's if he is still in league with Cad Bane and Bosk, he's
Yeah.
untouchable in terms of the underworld.
I also oh man, I was gonna say something but I totally forgot. It was gonna be about Boba. If it comes back to me, I'll let you know.
All right, sounds good. um, but but yeah, so that's kind of why I think they haven't gone after Boba. Omega much more viable. Although be it they are very
Oh,
skilled, it is just a couple of clones, the Bad Batch, that is supporting her. So I feel like it's a lot easier to go after her than Boba, especially because as we've seen, the Bad Batch, they don't know how to lay low. They don't know how to be civilians or be like a part of this whole underworld thing.
yeah.
I mean, they're learning. They're doing a little better. Um, but yeah, they don't. I don't think they know how to do anything like that.
I do remember what I was gonna say about Boba.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that I'm pretty sure that in Clone Wars when Mace Windu was talking to Anakin after they were sabotaged by Boba as a kid, like kind of pretending to be like the cadets.
Okay.
Um, I remember I think this is what Mace said. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure when he was talking about the Mandalorian helmet he held, he was like, "Oh, it belonged to Jango Fett." And they were like, "Oh, like his son Boba was presumed dead after the Battle of Geonosis."
Hmm.
I don't know if that's what he says exactly, but I just remember hearing him talk about Boba and like why he's getting revenge on Mace Windu, during the Clone Wars.
Yeah. Hey, I mean that's possible.
So that's probably another reason why they probably can't find him, is because well, until he obviously kind of makes his name big in the bounty hunters, but
and they didn't really mention anything when they searched through the systems, right? And they found Boba Fett's name and Alpha. They didn't say anything about his connection to the bounty hunters. They just mentioned him as a clone and being held as like a son to Jango Fett.
yes, but I also
So you
think they
might
don't
be
have
right. They
any.
might he might be presumed dead as far as they know,
Yeah,
because he left Camino with Django and he never went back. The last he was seen publicly was probably Geonosis, like you said.
yeah.
Okay. So I mean that's kind of all the thoughts I've got on the bounty hunter so far. But just to wrap this up, at least on the bounty hunter part, so we know that Fennec is sort
Hmm.
of working to help Omega, right?
Yeah,
Um, and Omega we see is becoming very capable.
of like surviving on her own.
Yes.
Uh huh.
Do you see a time when those two go out will come together?
I feel like that will happen.
Because they had a
Because
moment there in that episode with Cad Bane, and
yeah,
she
and then on
was
top of that, because she was like, "Listen, like we kind of go way back, like as like a kind of jokingly thing." But she's like, they've had, yeah, like you said, they're having a moment, especially when she was like, "I'm trying to help you," and she's like, "Listen, like if you go with this guy, like you're gonna die, basically."
yeah. And I talked about in the video that I put out
Yep.
for that episode, how um, how Fennec uh, is also like a really honorable character, right? We know
Yeah.
that she's not someone who will go back on her word. Of course, she's in it for the pay, as all bounty hunters are, but
Yeah.
she's not a terrible person as far as a bounty hunter goes.
Oh yeah.
Can't say too much about that, but I'll leave it at that. But of course, for everyone who's watched The Mandalorian, of course she's much older, but she was very honorable in that as well. She held her word. She was going to help get Grogu back and everything else. She was paying her debt to Boba. And then at the end of the episode with Cad Bane, when she's talking to Nala Se, she mentions, hey, like if you know how to contact me if you need me again. So I'm sure from that she'll be back.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and I kind of feel like if it came down to it, and now let's say asked her to, and of course paid the right price, she could probably take Omega in.
Yeah.
If
I
anything were
I
to
would
happen to the Bad Batch.
like, but I think honestly, Omega would definitely probably turn to her like without a doubt if the Bad Batch pretty much die.
Yeah, true, true. All right, all right. So let's move away from the bounty hunter thing. On to the next topic. So, Crosshair. Do you
Ah,
think he'll be
yes.
back? Do you think he'll be back at all, or do you think he'll be a forever
Yeah.
or do you think he'll be a forever um, antagonist to the Bad Batch?
I mean, I feel like eventually, I mean, well, we all know eventually these people are gonna have to die, But I do think right now they might bring him back. I mean, if they do, I'm okay with it. If they don't, I'm okay with it because him as an antagonist is he's great. Like honestly, I love the way they wrote him as an antagonist.
Yeah.
Um, especially because it's like he knows them, so he's like he knows how they think, he knows how they plot and how their strategies
Yes.
are. Especially when they were on the Republic ship and they caught him, they're like, "Yo, like they're gonna try this." So,
Yeah, he cornered them multiple times. He knew very well everything Hunter was planning,
yeah,
I think it's funny because sometimes we've seen Hunter, he has to improvise on plans, and he also in mid planning forgets that Crosshair's not with them,
yeah,
and he has to compensate for that. So that tells me that like Crosshair is someone who's also with Hunter making those plans in mid battle as things go on. I gotta go back and watch their episodes in Clone Wars to kind of see how they work as a group. But that's kind of the vibe that it gives off to me.
yeah,
But okay, so you think he's gonna be back?
yeah. I think he's gonna come back, and I think the way they're doing it, they're definitely probably gonna do it the same way they take their chip out, But I also feel like if they do attempt this, personally, they're gonna have help.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm saying, they're gonna call in probably. My prediction is they're probably gonna call in Fennec and Rex, or maybe Fennec might, you know, get hired to
Hmm.
help them. You know,
Hey, they're making money. They could hire her.
exactly. Well, I'm saying like from the one Kaminoan who wants Omega safe,
Ah, yes.
because like I feel like they're gonna eventually realize that it's like with Crosshair on their like neck half the time. It's like she's not safe wherever she goes. So I feel like she's gonna be like, hey, I need you to go to the Bad Batch, help them do this, and we'll pay you this and that.
Definitely. Definitely. No, I like that. I like that. Um, so I don't really know what to think about Crosshair coming back. Um, I really don't know. I'm on the fence on it because it's plausible, of course, right?
Yeah,
But it's like you said, they all have to die.
yeah, because
they
there's no documentation or records of them in the Galactic Civil War or even in any of the shows or anything.
yeah. So I just don't know. I think if he were, if he was to come back, um, they're going to have to capture him. Of course, he's not going
Oh
to go
yeah,
willingly. But I wonder even more so: is there going to be some sort of remorse amongst the teammates? I mean, I think they're gonna be happy to have him back, of course. But is there gonna be some
yeah,
little distrust, some anger between them?
yeah. I think there might be a little bit of tension, at least with Echo. I personally think with Echo because Echo hasn't been around that much, so Echo's gonna probably have his doubts. I feel like if they bring him back, and then I also think Omega is just gonna be worried about him.
Yeah.
But maybe even Hunter kind of being on edge a little bit because I also say like not Wrecker Tech because I feel like Tech would definitely trust the fact that his chip is removed, but I also think that Wrecker really misses him and he's gonna be like it's glad to have you back because in one of the episodes he was like oh like I kind of miss him.
Yeah, I remember that too. That's kind of why I think they might take him back. Um, and one last thing I got to say on that. So I don't know if you've seen it, But some people pulled up some images of Crosshair from this last episode, and it, some people are saying the same area where the inhibitor chip is usually located in the clones is the same area that got burned off of his head.
Yeah.
So some people think that his inhibitor chip is damaged, and he's still just going after them out of spite.
That's actually pretty good. I didn't think about that. I actually did not think about that. That's a very
Yeah,
good point.
I don't know if I subscribe to
Huh.
that either, but I mean, it's something to think about.
Yeah, it is.
Because he was always kind of like a like an angry guy,
Yeah.
regardless. So I mean, I don't know. I
He's
feel
like the
like it.
grumpy of the group.
Yeah, I feel like still wouldn't be able to do it. Um, I don't know. I really don't know. I wonder if he's sort of just stuck in a situation he can't get out of either.
I mean, he's definitely because especially after Omega saying in the first episode, it's like I know what you want to do, but don't. I still feel like his conversation with Omega still kind of plays in his head, and he's slightly fighting it,
Yeah,
but it's so strong that it's like you can't.
yeah, I get that. So I don't know. I feel like part of me feels like if they do get him back, he's not gonna stay around for long. He might die.
Oh yeah.
um, but yeah, that's all I got at Crosshair. You got any last thoughts on Crosshair?
No, not really.
No. Okay. All right. So I'm going to get into what you've been waiting all stream to get into. All right.
Nice.
Let's talk about this last episode that we just watched.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna break it down or anything. Just go right into it. Tell me your thoughts, everything you
All
liked.
right. So, as I've said, like I'm a huge Rebels fan. I actually really appreciate that show. A lot of people don't, and that's okay. I'm not one of those fans that are like, "Oh, you should watch it," But I will definitely say that if you have time, definitely like give it a try. Just give it a try. You don't have to watch. Personally, you don't have to watch all of season 1. You can watch some parts and then go from season 2 and up. But it's a very good show, and it adds a lot of depth to.
Real quick, not sorry to cut you off on that, but just to help with that, for everyone watching this on Disney Plus, I'm pretty sure that they have an entire playlist of key episodes that you can just watch if that works for people better.
Yes,
Yes,
they do.
That's all I want to say. But sorry, go ahead, get back in your bag.
Yeah. But the show definitely it kind of gives us conclusions to certain characters. It kind of reintroduces characters that were like, I wonder what happened to them. Like, oh, like we all know that we see Ahsoka. We all know we see Rex, Gregor, and Wolf again. Which not gonna lie, like I still wonder like how did Gregor and Wolf lose their chips and stuff like that because you kind of see the bandage and the mark on their head a little bit. But I think but going back to this Bad Batch episode, I think this past episode was pretty good. I think it was great. I loved it. I love the fact that we got to see Ryloth because we know in Rebels too that there's an episode where they go back to Ryloth and her father is like fighting and like saying like, oh, we need this for the motivation of the people, and it kind of makes you wonder. It's like, okay, like we're seeing all this in Bad Batch, the introduction to the whole the first Galactic Empire, and one of my like kind of thoughts was Ryloth because clearly Cham wasn't gonna settle for that kind of crap.
Yeah,
he only cares about his people. He doesn't care what goes on in the rest of the galaxy. He just cares about the better, the good of his people.
right.
And I like how we got to see that he was kind of in conflict in the beginning until they messed with Hera, and he was like, "No, you guys are out of line. You can't do this. You gotta go."
Yeah, especially because they were so unjust, and of course they automatically branded her a traitor.
Yeah.
And that was going to sentence her to death.
Yeah.
So she's a child. He's not going to let that happen, especially because he knows that Senator Ta is a complete, and to quote Ahsoka, slime ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a complete slime ball. And it's crazy just to look at him like when he is on Ryloth, and it's crazy to see him amongst his people. This man is large.
Yeah.
Large, and he and every one of his people, they're all skinny. They're a lot of them are starving. We know that Ryloth is a system that needs a lot of humanitarian aid.
Yeah.
They've been affected by drugs, slavery, the Clone Wars, you know. So they
Yep.
so and but he's just plump and fat. He's
Yeah.
happy and rich, but his people are suffering. So I was completely with it with Mara's father on this. Um, yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
But I also like how we get to see her mother as well, and we also we hear Hera talk about the things she wants to do when she's older. Personally, like I was watching the episode and I was just like, Hera, like we know what you're gonna become. Like we know what's gonna go down. Like just wait, just wait. She's like, oh, like I can't wait to be a pilot, and this and that. And it's like, wow. She talks about that in Rebels. At least when she's talking like to Ezra, she's like, when I was younger, like I used to always want to be able to fly, and it's like, live on a ship. And you hear her kind of talk about that as a kid. It's like like the nostalgia a little bit kind of brings you back to think like, wow, like I remember hearing about this moment in Rebels, and like we're seeing it. So
That's dope. I know she was in Rebels. You pointed out to me like a while ago.
yep.
But I'm sure that hit a lot harder for you and those fans seeing
Oh
those
yeah.
moments of her like
Oh yeah.
talking about her dreams and everything.
And one more thing I was gonna say is like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
saw something on Twitter the other day, and like realizing that made it hit even more is you know the Bad Batch got to meet two very important characters and in a way like kind of help them because you have Caleb Doom and
Hmm.
then you have Hera, and if you watch Rebels like their relationship, and then especially knowing like what goes down in Rebels, it's like wow, like that hit, like they're kind of like a major reason that they were kind of like saved and brought together. Um, but yeah, it kind of hit. But I do think that wait, have we gotten to the next episode predictions
No,
or
no,
no?
no, not yet,
Okay,
not yet, not
okay,
yet.
okay, okay, okay.
No, no, just not yet, not yet.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, is that all your thoughts on the episode?
um, yeah, just very glad that we saw Hera in like kind of like major parts. Oh, actually, and also Chopper, the boy.
The droid?
Yes, Chopper. We love Chopper.
Because
One of
I've
the
seen.
funniest, one of the funniest droids
Is that
that
sort
I've
of like
ever
the
seen in
Rebels
Star Wars.
R2?
Yeah, he's literally like the Rebels R2. Like honestly, R2 is like the best, but
Yeah, yeah.
I place Chopper in second place.
Okay. See, yeah, so a lot of these tie-ins are like, it's on my list of, of course, to watch Rebels, but a lot of these tie-ins and all the hype you've been giving me about, Rebels and the tie-ins, it's really making me want to watch it more.
And
So
I'm glad.
I think Disney really knows what they're doing here and trying to make people trying to go back and consume these shows like Clone Wars and
Yep.
Rebels. Um, so it's just really like exciting to see all that.
And one thing I'm gonna also say is like even the Mandalorian kind of did that too.
Yeah.
Especially season two. When we see Ahsoka, we're like, oh, like the people who've watched Rebels, they've known like what she's been going through and what exactly her mission is. You see her say, "Where's Grand Admiral Thrawn?" And hearing that made me kind of go crazy because I know why she's looking for him.
Yeah.
Not really gonna get into details because you're gonna watch the show, but just know you'll understand why she was looking for Admiral Thrawn. If you watch Rebels, you understand what I'm talking about with that. But
Yeah, I know a
I just
little
think
bit. I
I
gotta
think
watch
it's
it though.
great. Yeah, I think it's great that these new Star Wars projects are kind of like showing hey, like we know a lot of people don't like Rebels, but watch it. It has a lot of good details in there.
And I always, do we know when Ahsoka's set to come out yet? Has that ever been announced, or is that still
Um,
the release still in the works?
I don't know.
Because
I don't.
I don't think so. I don't think there's any release for it.
Yeah,
But
I haven't seen anything new at least.
I plan to finish Rebels before Ahsoka show.
Yeah.
That's definite. That's a definite watch for me. Like before Ahsoka show starts. I don't want to be out the loop once it does. But I don't really have too much to go into on this episode. Um, I guess just to speak on it as a whole, I thought it was really good, especially because it wasn't a Bad Batch centered episode. They were in it for like 2-3 minutes, and that was it. They were the unexpected weapon smugglers, which I thought was actually kind of a nice turn of events. We didn't. Not that I don't want to see them, but it was just kind of nice to see a whole new situation going on. Crosshair and the Empire, and got to see what they were doing. So I really liked that, especially because they are helping to fuel the rebellion on Ryloth.
Mm.
And of course, Omega, is befriended Hera a little bit. So that makes me
Yeah.
wonder even more so about the future of Omega. But we'll get into that into the predictions in a little bit. But just to go back to the episode, um, I like seeing, the them, of course, being the weapon smugglers, probably doing a job for Sid, of course. Like they did mention
Yeah.
that Sid. Um, but another thing is, I wonder if this is another one of those moments that's going to cause them to pick a side in all of this. We know that's sort of been weighing on Hunter as the leader, to maybe pick a side in this whole ordeal, whether to just um, whether it's to join the Empire, join the rebellion, or stay neutral, which is seeming very, harder and harder to do as the show goes on.
Yeah.
And then as far as the people of Ryloth, like you said, it was good to see them, especially after everything they've been through in the Clone Wars show.
Oh yeah.
I don't know it, but what you've said about what became of them in the Rebels show,
Yeah.
it's kind. I guess it really is nice to see a good introduction how everything is playing out. And
Yeah.
we've been seeing how the Empire has been doing things, how they've been expanding their rule and influence, exposing themselves to all of these worlds that were under the Republic, or in the previous episode under the Separatists.
Yeah.
Um,
That was also interesting too, seeing what it's like with the separatists as well.
yeah, that world was not going with easily, so I don't think Ryloth will either. So it's
Yeah.
it's it's so we're definitely going to get to see. I think soon we're going to get to see the heavy hand of the Empire. And, there's a lot of systems that are refusing. Some are joining, of course, because they can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
But some of these worlds are going to be revolting. So I think we're going to see a heavy hand of the Empire come down soon. And I can't wait for that. But I think Ryloth is definitely going to be a catalyst for a lot of things going forward.
Yeah.
If there is another season of Bad Batch, this is going to be echoing out throughout the remainder of the series from what happens here.
Yeah.
So I thought this was really good. This set up a lot of things to happen. Um, I'm also really curious as well about the clone captain on Ryloth, who was very friendly with
Oh
Hera and
yes,
her
yes,
family.
yes.
I don't know. I don't remember him from Clone Wars.
He was not in Clone Wars. Or
Okay,
was I
that's
think so.
that.
Oh,
That's what
this
that's
is
what
what
I
I remember.
figured. That's what I figured. But I liked him. So what I'll say about him is he was the only person that I was fully agreeing with, this entire time. He was looking out for Hera, looking out for the family, even when the commander was giving the order to take her out, he's like, she's just a kid. So I'm wondering, does this guy have an inhibitor chip problem?
Yeah, literally I was actually saying the same thing when I was watching that. Like I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, so is this chip also messed up, or is he like maybe he might be a defect clone that they missed?
Yeah,
That
maybe. There are so many clones out there. I can only imagine that there are several out there who either A, don't have a working inhibitor chip, or B, it's messed up and similar to the Bad Batch, it's just not activating because of a defect or something.
Yeah,
Um, so I wonder, what's his case? Does he? Because he seems to be somewhat complying with the Empire, right? He's not questioning the Republic or anything else.
yeah,
So I'm wondering if it's sort of like the Bad Batch in a way, like it's there, but it's just not overall like working. and I wonder if he'll join up with them.
That's what I'm probably thinking. Like, I was thinking, he probably won't join up with them. Honestly, I do have a feeling that like, well, if I feel like he might die. Personally, I feel like he might die.
Okay.
But if he doesn't, I don't think he'll join the Bad Batch because then it's like, I don't know. I feel like they're just adding more characters to like their ship and stuff like that. When it's like, right now, I know their main thing is to get Crosshair back because now they know how to, get rid of the inhibitor chips.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they might point him towards like Rex and be like, "Hey, like, go to this guy."
Yeah, no, that's a definite idea too. There's always Rex, and we know Rex would definitely take a guy like him.
Oh yeah.
And the last thing I want to say about this episode, um, what's the admiral's name? Do you remember his name? I keep blanking on his name all the time.
No, I don't. I don't remember his name either.
But you know who I'm talking about. Who was appointed by Tarkin? Yeah. He was the imperial officer in this episode. He's been seen before, but his whole plan.
Oh my god!
This man was playing 4D chess.
Yeah, yeah. No, he literally was. I was like, wow.
And Crosshair was in it all along. He's like, they're going to do something stupid. Keep an eye on them, track them, and then he's like, okay, they're on the way back. All right, take it down. The ship goes down. And then he's like, I don't care about anything else. Just make sure you're in position to do something. And I'm like, what is he in position to do? And it's not until this whole time I'm like, okay, he was thinking that something like this could happen all along. Hera's family could go and save him. This is where they can go and legally take him out. Because they mentioned he could be a problem as a man of the people. He knows how to rally them. So I figured, okay, this is how we're going to take him out. And when I say that, I mean like literally like kill him. But I did not expect what happened. I did not think that Crosshair was aiming for Senator Todd this whole time.
Yeah, that shocked me. I was like, oh my god.
And oh my god. And when that happened, my mind went to so many places. One, whose idea was this? This is like a Palpatine level move. You know what I'm saying? Like,
on top of that, it's like he had kind of like anticipated that something will go wrong, like you said. And the fact that it's like he had that plan the entire time, like probably regardless of what happened.
But he was, and also just to say on that, he was so calm the whole time. What was his name? Chom?
Yeah.
He was when he had the blaster and pointing at everyone. He's just like, "Don't look at me." He's the one with the blaster. He is so calm the whole time. I'm like, all right, this guy's got something up his sleeve.
Yeah, that was kind of like the hint that, all right, yeah, no, this guy's definitely about to pull something.
Mm-hmm. So there's not much more to say in the episode. So honestly, from here we can only get into predictions, of course.
Yes.
So let's just cut loose on that. So there is so much to come from this episode, and of course things from the past. From what we just talked about, at least for right now, what are your predictions going forward with some of these tie-ins, and of course this last episode?
All right, well, as in for what I believe is gonna go down next episode, well, if you know Hera's story, you gotta have an idea what might happen within this episode, but there's definitely gonna be some crap that goes down.
I don't know her story, so I'm going to wait and see.
Yeah, I can't really say much because it's like, I don't want to.
Yeah, let's leave it for some of the people who haven't.
My prediction is if you've seen Rebels, you know Hera's backstory a little bit, you kind of know what's about to go down. But as for the future, I do think that we actually might run into some more Rebels characters or events that we hear about in Rebels, because they've already shown us Caleb Doom within the first episode and one major event that changed his life. Now we're seeing Hera. We obviously we're not going to see Ezra because like season 1's basically his intro story. I personally like we're not gonna see. I think we are gonna see another Rose characters, but it's not gonna be Zeb. I think it's gonna be Sabine. Um,
Oh,
I think we're
okay.
gonna see Sabine because, well, we all know she's Mandalorian,
Yes.
and the last time we saw Mandalore was literally the end of Siege of Mandalore. So clearly, well, during that time Sabine wasn't born. I at least believe so. I don't. I know she's like 16 in like season one, I believe, but um, I definitely, well, Sabine's not born, so I think we're gonna see like maybe it might be a season two thing or season like three if they ever go that far.
Okay.
Um, but I think we're gonna see how the Imperials kind of got control of Mandalore. We know that, as Sabine had mentioned in the show, they made Mandalorians build majority of their vehicles, like their walkers, their fighters, and their weapons, and you know, and then you even had like Mandalorian loyalists who pretty much like like yeah, had somebody run the government because like they still had their own kind of thing, but except like the houses became divided. Certain houses joined the Empire, certain houses didn't. So we're gonna see the division
Mm-hmm.
of the Mandalorians within the planet Mandalore.
You think that's gonna be in the Bad Batch?
Yes, I do believe that, and I feel like because we know Sabine escapes the Imperial factory and eventually escapes the planet. Now I'm thinking like, okay, we could have the Bad Batch be the ones to kind of save her in a way, or they might be hired to do something. I don't know. It could be anything. But
Okay.
I do think that if they are planning to show us a Rebels character in sort of their past stories, like actual, I think Sabine's gonna be next. Cause what again? Why I say not Zeb is because the Lasat they didn't fight in the Clone War.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the one thing we know about Zeb's story and the Lasat is the whole slaughtering of their people. And then we might even see, if they show that, we might even see Agent Callus because he was there. And Agent Callus, as we all know, is a very important character in the show. But that's pretty much my kind of predictions for the future if they were to kind of steer in that direction. But as for just the show in general, like I think the next two episodes, like in a way, it's just kind of a filler. I think because something big is gonna happen within the next the episode after the next one coming out. Like we're gonna get into some season finale type stuff, and it's gonna be huge. So I think this is kind of like a filler before, like the calm before the storm. You know?
I like that. No, I like that a lot. And I really like your prediction with like them bringing in the people from the Rebel show because, like you said, they've introduced two so far, right?
Yeah.
So I just
Well,
to
technically
piggy.
three, because Chopper.
Oh, of course you
Yeah.
can't forget the droid. But just to piggyback off that a little bit. So I'm in the same like mind with you when it comes to them gathering people, or helping out people who are going to be these rebellious figures in the future.
Yep.
Because like I don't think they're going to be a part of the rebellion. I think they're going to be a group that's going to be the spark for the rebellion. I think that
Yes.
they could be sort of a canon version of Star Killer, because we know he's not canon, and he's too powerful to be canon, honestly.
Yeah.
So I think they could be that sort of filler for his role in sort of helping the rebellion get their grounds, because we know I didn't think it would be the people from the Rebels show. I thought it would be some of more of these traditional rebels that we know about, from the
Yeah.
original trilogy and some of the other stuff.
I
In the
mean, we've
first
also seen
episode,
some.
we saw Saw Gerrera.
Yep.
We know that he's a major rebel leader. Anyone who's played Jedi Fallen Order, he's a figure, and he's very around in that one. And of course, you can't forget Rogue One, the movie.
Yeah.
So I think he's gonna come back around at some point or another. I'd like to see him again because there's not too much for him, but I'd like to him. Since he seems to be everywhere, I think he needs to be fleshed out a little more, and this is a really good
Hmm.
opportunity for that. Um, but I also kind of thought that some of the figures we could see would be Senator Organa.
I'm
I
I'm actually kind of waiting for him to kind of make an appearance. I have a feeling he might.
because he's one of those figures for me. If Rex isn't the one that can turn them, he can.
But I will say one thing about Organa. I think one thing also is you gotta remember he's taking care of baby Leia at this point. Like Leia is literally like what? Like well actually yeah, by this time like literally Leia's like a baby, like not even one.
Oh yeah,
Probably
no,
like a couple
he
months.
honestly, her and Luke are she's probably just settling in with him and his family on Onderon, and Luke is probably just settling in on Tatooine because this is not long after Order 66
Yeah, I
starts.
mean they do. It's probably like a couple of weeks now because they have gone on missions for Sid. But
Yeah,
yeah, no, literally like things are probably just kind of like getting settled. So I don't think we're gonna see Bail Organa for, if we do, like for a while.
I
You know.
yeah, I'd like to see him come around just because for me he is like a pivotal start to the rebellion. He's the one who's sort of got all of these political leaders involved, rallying the groups. So if we're going to really see a start of the rebellion, I hope he shows up. But
Oh
also,
yeah.
you know, we know he was with it. Because at the end of episode 3, the last time we saw him, he's talking with Obi-Wan and Yoda, and they sort of have a plan. You know, they're gonna go in exile, and he's gonna take care of Leia and do what he can. You know,
Yeah.
so that's at least that's my thoughts on Organa. I don't have anything else to say on him exactly,
Yeah.
but I definitely agree that we're going to see more prominent figures of the rebellion showing up throughout this show. The Bad Batch is going to be probably the ones that really helps them get going.
Yeah.
And then these guys, you know, they're going to be cemented as sort of like a spark of the rebellion eventually.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely want to see some of that.